What's up, record keepers? I wanted to make this video real quick because, well, it's not going to be a quick video, because something occurred to me. I was looking ahead in the future events for Record Keeper, and it looks to me like Dina is running out of characters to add. Because, like, the last 6 or so events, they've just been recycling the old characters and they have not been adding any new ones. So I wanted to make this video as kind of a discussion kind of thing to include anyone who watches it to, like, add their suggestions for what characters they think should be added. And more than that, I want this video to be shared. So, like, show this video to, like, your friends or, like, other YouTubers or to anybody, really. Get this word out. See if we can get Dina's attention. See if we can get them to add some of our favorite characters. Now, because this is a discussion video, I wanted to promote a relaxed environment, specifically for me. So I'm going to be, rather than playing, like, Final Fantasy music in the back, I'm going to try to experiment a little bit. And I'm going to play the kind of music I listen to in my personal time, which, if you don't know, is death metal. Death metal, black metal, doom metal. Pretty much anything in that genre is, like, my absolute favorite, but, like, any kind of metal, really. So I'm going to give this a go. If you guys feel like I should not play this and I should play, like, something else, like Final Fantasy music, since it's a Final Fantasy channel, more than welcome to do that. Just add us, this is just a test. So, like, go ahead and, just leave a comment, do what you will with it. But anyway, hit shuffle on that. I'll put the name of the song in the video. I'll edit it in case anybody's really interested in what artists I listen to. But anyway, my first suggestion, because right now we're noticing there's not a whole lot of Final Fantasy 1 synergy. To start, let me turn that down a little bit. To start with, there's, like, maybe 2 characters you can pull. Well, no, actually, I mean, there's, like, 3 characters you can pull out of Final Fantasy 1. The Warrior of Light, Garland, and Princess Sarah. Princess Sarah does not ever fight, though, so, like, she's not even, she never fights, though, so, like, you can't really even use her as an effective character, like, anywhere. Warrior of Light's not even from Final Fantasy 1, he's actually from Dissidia, so go ahead and rule him out. That leaves Garland as the only viable character. But, since we already have the Warrior of Light, I figured I'd go ahead and just throw my idea out there for how we could get Final Fantasy 1 synergy. Take the classes from Final Fantasy 1, except for the Knight, because that's who the Warrior of Light's based off of. Kind of upgrade them from their counterparts in Record Keeper. Like, take the white, or take, like, the Devout, turn it into the White Wizard, give it better stats and abilities. Right there, that's a Final Fantasy 1 character. Use the White Wizard sprite from Final Fantasy 1, there you go. This would effectively give you 5 classes, plus the Warrior of Light, plus Garland. That's 7 characters right there, each with different stats and more versatility. Basically allowing for a more than viable team for Final Fantasy 1. That's just my idea, though. That's just me. From Final Fantasy 2, we're gonna have Farion, Maria, and Leon. It makes sense to me, we should at least have Guy in there, If you're gonna have the 2 main characters, and, like, the other one that you name in the beginning, it makes sense to have the 3rd main character, Guy. Leon's not even there for most of the game. He's there for the beginning and, like, the final dungeon, and that's it. Like, the rest of the time he's just off somewhere else. I'm not going to spoil it in case anybody wants to play through Final Fantasy 2, which I recommend it. It's a good game. It's not as good as Final Fantasy 1 or really any other Final Fantasy, but it's worth at least one playthrough. So besides that, they really should add Guy, because he works great as a physical. Well, he works great as anything, because the way Final Fantasy 2 works, you style your characters towards the way you want them to. I think they start out with predetermined stats, but, like, past that, you choose what role they play. If you want to have a big, dumb, burly guy be, like, the best white mage in the game, you could absolutely do that. I don't recommend that, but you can. I always have him play towards physical attacking. But, that's just me. I also feel like, since Soul of Rebirth, we got to take more control of Joseph and Minwoo. We also had Scott. We should totally add Scott as a playable character. Make him, like, physical speed, because if I remember correctly, Scott was he was the master thief of the group. I think that's what he called himself. It might have been someone else, but, that's just my personal, like I said, I'm gonna say that a lot. That's just my opinion. I'm gonna say that a whole lot in this video, because it really is. It's just my opinion. Last character for Final Fantasy 2, add the goddamn Emperor. I mean, he's the main villain of the whole game, and there's basically, like, 3 different parts of him. Human, Heaven, and Hell. Just, it makes sense to add him. Just make him maybe a master of magic of sorts, or maybe like a physical magical hybrid, because I remember in Dissidia, I think he uses his rod as a physical attack occasionally. But for the most part, he generally, casts like those little, like that little shock pad and like some like, I think he can use mines also. But he also has that fireball attack and starfall and, all that other stuff. I don't remember a great deal of his damaging attacks in Dissidia, actually. I know he has starfall. I think that's the only one I remember. Oh, I think Flare was also one. His fireball one, I think. I don't remember. I need to play through Dissidia again. That was awesome. For Final Fantasy III, there's a great deal of characters you can add. You could add Princess Sarah, make her a white mage. Could add... Well, I should have pointed this out earlier. If I don't mention a character's name, it's because... if I don't mention someone who's clearly an obvious character, they're probably already going to be added to the game. Or they slipped my mind. So, anyway. You got Princess Sarah. You really could add Cid, because this game does not have enough Cids. We have Cid Highwind, and that's it. There's like 13 different playable Cids. 13 viable Cids. So add the one from Final Fantasy III. He's, like most Cids, he has a giant beard. He uses a hammer. Make him like a physical attacker. He can use black magic, I think, a little bit in Final Fantasy III. I think he casts fire. Or uses his hammer. What else? Oh, yeah. Could also add Alice, the prince from... Forgot the name of that one place. The giant, like... Oh, God. It was not on the Floating Continent, it was on the other one. What was it called? The giant... You know what I'm talking about, if you've played Final Fantasy III, where you fight Garuda. I think that's also where you get Odin. Yeah, that giant place. The prince that was friends with Ark. Add him, I think he's a physical attacker. Also, let's add Doga and Yune. Since they're pretty central to the game's storyline, with him, with Doga, Yune, and Zandy, makes sense to have those two playable. Make Doga an offensive mage and Yune a defensive mage. Also, while we're talking mages, let's put in the Cloud of Darkness. Sure, she doesn't have a viable field sprite, but, I mean, just use the one from Dissidia. I mean, you did for the Warrior of Light, so I don't think that's that big of a deal. Maybe make the Cloud of Darkness probably a offensive mage, because I don't think... Well, no. Physical magical hybrid, because she uses her tentacles, or tentacle face dog thing, whatever they are. She uses those as attacks in Dissidia, so you could totally do that. I think she has multiple versions of the... Well, she has like 18 versions of Particle Beam, and she has like 3 versions of their physical attacks, so... I'd say physical magical hybrid in the direction of the Cloud. For Final Fantasy IV, I really could only think of 2 characters to add, because you pretty much covered everybody else. Let's go ahead and add another Cid in there, because he's way more playable than in Final Fantasy III, and he's probably the better Cid than in 3. I also dawned on me, because we already have a villain for Final Fantasy IV, but, let's also just throw in there Zemus as a Master of Magic. And he's going to be like the 7th villain in the game to be a Master of Magic, but that's what a great deal of, villains are. They seem to be Masters of Magic for some reason. Sephiroth isn't, Cypher isn't, who else isn't? Someone is not. Jack isn't. Yeah, throw Zemus in there. He's only there for all of like 4 minutes, based on how fast you kick his ass. But he's definitely. I think he should be added to the game. It seems worth it. I mean, he completely wiped out Golbez and Fusoya with like 1 meteor, so seems worth it to me. Final Fantasy V, because there's. Let's look at it right now. There's not many playable characters in Final Fantasy V. Like, we have Bart, Lena, Galoof, Ferris, Krill, Exdeath, and Gilgamesh, and that's it. And that can be quite a bit, that's 7 characters, that's not that bad. Let's get some more of the Dawn Warriors in there, let's get Dorgon, let's get Zezit, let's get, Kelger. I don't think Dorgon's ever shown as in battle in Final Fantasy V, but My phone almost shut off on me. I know Dorgon's not shown off in battle very much. I don't think at all, actually. But I know Zeza is briefly, not even in a fight, but like he is shown fighting in Kidu, while everyone else is fighting Gilgamesh on the boats outside of Exdeath's castle. I think that's where it is. And Kelger, we know, has the what was it called? The thing where he teleports around and you gotta like find the real one or something. Bart somehow finds it immediately. Oh, Lupine Barrage. It was Lupine Barrage. You know, add the warriors, done. We don't need Galoof. We already have Galoof. I don't think there's any more villains, because we already got Gilgamesh and Exdeath. That's really about it. That's all I could see from Final Fantasy V. From Final Fantasy VI, you know, we've got almost all the playable characters. Let's really just throw in there, Umaro. Even though he doesn't play much of it. I think he has, like, 4 lines in the game, and that's it. You know, but still, he's, like, the strongest character in the game. No, he's not. He's definitely not. He's a strong character, though. You know, he has he has quite a personality of, like, 4 English words and the rest of them being, like, grunts and growls and stuff. But, you know, I don't think there's any reason to exclude him. Now, it crossed my mind to add Go-Go, but the thing is, I don't know what he could do because there's no Mimic in... There's not really a good way to add a Mimic into Record Keeper. Because there doesn't really... Well, maybe. You know what? You could probably find some way to add a Mimic in Record Keeper. That might make it a little bit overpowered, though, because, you know, with the inclusion of Overflow Soul Breaks, you know, you could just do that, and then just have the Mimic mime the Overflow Soul Break. Unless you do what you do in Final Fantasy VII, which is, does not let other characters mime other people's limit breaks. For example, Cloud can't use Ungarmix, Yuffie can't use Omnislash, and so on. But a Mimic might make things a little bit overpowered, because you could just have, like... you could give, like, 4 characters, like, Barrage, and then just have all of them use it, and then just have Go-Go just mime it. But, you know, I really don't think they'll do that, because I just don't think it'll happen. You know, I think if they're gonna add Go-Go, they're probably gonna make him a healer. That's just me. Maybe offensive magic, but, you know. Maybe they'll make him a master of magic. That'd be awesome. For Final Fantasy VII, you know, if we're gonna have Reno as a playable character, we might as well have all of the Turks. So let's just go ahead and just throw in Rude and Elena. You know, despite the fact that Elena's there for 1 fight, you know. But it makes sense to have the whole gang playable. And, you know, I'm sure that with the remake, with the Final Fantasy VII remake, people are gonna, you know, bitch about how they don't want Genesis and Angeal and all those people from Crisis Core to be added, but, you know, if we're thinking about it, they're a part of the story, you know. So, I think that even though I haven't played much of Crisis Core, I still think that they should be at least mentioned, if not fully included in the game, because they, like it or not, they are a part of the story, so it just seems like the most viable thing for me, you know. I wouldn't mind that. More on that point, add Genesis as a playable character. I would say add Angeal, but that's you'll have basically 3 clones of Cloud, so that doesn't really, you know. But yeah, basically add Genesis, Rude, and Elena, and you pretty much got a whole Final Fantasy VII team there. Because that's basically everyone worth using in Final Fantasy VII. Well, you know what I mean. Everyone worth adding, I mean. Final Fantasy VIII... Let's add Ultimecia. You know. She's kind of important. She's a sorceress from the future. You know. Kinda is there most of the game in spirit. Literally in spirit. You know, make her, of course, a master of magic, because she seems to use holy and... Oh, she can also steal people's magic, apparently. You know, Griever, and Ultimecia Griever, and Final Ultimecia. I'm pretty sure they can all steal your magic, but Griever seems to do it the most. So, yeah, totally give Ultimecia that ability if you add her. That'd be fun, you know, to steal, like... to be in the fight with, like, the Omniscient from Final Fantasy V in the Realm Dungeon, and just steal his ability to use Reset. So that if he hits you with a strong thing, just have Ultimecia steal it. You know, that'd be funny. That'd be funny to me. Oh, that was almost really bad. You know, we're gonna have... If we're gonna add Rude and Elena, Just speculation, but if we're gonna add Rude and Elena as a suggestion, let's just go and throw in Fujin and Raijin, you know. They accompany Cypher throughout the whole game. They're there for a great deal of it. You know, they kind of bring Cypher back to his senses at the end. We fight them we fight them multiple times. You know, let's just have them playable. It would make the most sense, you know. I could not really think of anyone for Final Fantasy IX. I think I thought of, like, one character, and then I forgot them. I mean, give me a second to remember it. It was not Quina, because Quina's already there. Who was it? I know I thought of someone. I've actually never played Final Fantasy IX, so I don't really know who all could be added. Damn it, I had this today. I just thought of them, and I completely forgot who it was. I can't think of who it was. If I remember, I'll come back to it, but it was not Necron. Necron does not... No, Necron. Final Fantasy X, you know, it makes sense to just have Seymour as playable, because he is playable in Final Fantasy X, you know, briefly. And he, of course, let's make him a Master of Magic, because why not? And, you know, just for fun, let's make Braska's Final Aeon playable, because look at that big bastard. He'd be a good playable character. That was a joke, by the way. Don't take that seriously. For Final Fantasy XI, there's no synergy for that, so let's just skip that. Although they really should add it. You know, add Shantotto and Prish. Final Fantasy XII, I could not think of anybody because I have not played Final Fantasy XII. Oh, yes I can. Just kidding. Go ahead and add Vayne. Vayne Solidor. Put him in there. I don't know what role... I know he's the villain, but I don't know what if he's a physical character or a magical character or what his deal is, but totally add him in. You know, go ahead and just get the whole villain thing going on here. And for Final Fantasy XIII, you know, there's a great wall of characters you could add. You could add Bartandalus, because he's kind of an asshole in Final Fantasy XIII, if you really think about it. And you have to really think about it, because to a great deal of people, they don't understand the story. Which is understandable. It's a confusing-ass story, but if you really think about it, Bartandalus is such an asshole. And I'm talking human human Bartandalus, not Foul C Bartandalus. You know, give him the Pope uniform, do not give him the giant face uniform. Make him a Master of Magic, of course, because why not? You could also add, Noel, because that just makes sense to me, you know. I don't know why wow, I got both Dark Fortress songs back to back. It just makes the most sense to me, because it just does, you know. Noel's just a great character. Just go ahead and throw him in there as a playable. You know, he's a better character than Sarah, in my opinion. He's way more useful. At least to me, because I prefer physical characters over mages. I just do. And because no matter what, you can always use physical attacks, but magic attacks are generally on a limit. MP, draw casts, you know, it really depends, but I always prefer physical attackers over mages. Oh, there's one more character from Final Fantasy XIII, and this one absolutely has to be added. Caius. For real, man. If you're gonna... you absolutely have to add Caius to the game, because why would you not? Caius is a badass. And fun fact, I read this in the Final Fantasy XIII 2 guide, the piggyback one. Concerning only abilities and no other stats, no other anything, none other than just abilities. Caius is actually... Well, okay. As of Final Fantasy XIII 2 and prior, so not Lightning Returns, not Type 0, not any of that stuff. Concerning only abilities and nothing else, Caius is actually the strongest villain in Final Fantasy history. Now, I'm sure with the inclusion of, like, Bonavelza and whoever may be in Final Fantasy 15, I'm sure that isn't true anymore, but, And yeah, I'm gonna agree, Caius is kind of an asshole, because he's the only villain to use re-raise, as far as I know. He attacks relentlessly. Absolutely relentlessly. Seriously, that paradox ending in the Void Beyond with just Sarah and your monster against Caius, that paradox ending is really difficult. Straight up. There might be another character to add in Final Fantasy 13. I would say add the Angel of Valhalla, but that's a Chocobo. I would say add the Eidolons, but I don't think that would really make a whole lot of sense, because they're technically not playable, except for when you send them into Gestalt mode. I still have not thought of who it was in Final Fantasy IX, but, yeah. Trying to think of someone in Lightning Returns. Snow's already playable. Caius already added. Noel I already added. There's not even a boss in the Dead Dunes that you could add as a playable character. That giant slug thing's not playable. You could add Buenavelza, but no, that's not really a good idea. I would say add Kid Hope, but he's already added, so there's really not much you could add from Final Fantasy 13. I'm thinking from just minor characters in 13.1. Just some random bosses. I would say Godot and Lebreau, but they're not really that useful characters, to be honest. You know. Alright, well, I have not played Tactics, so I can't provide any suggestions on that, nor have I played 14, so I really can't provide any suggestions on that. But there's a great deal of playable characters in Final Fantasy 14, so, you know, leave your suggestions. Share this video around. Share it with anybody you can find, even if they haven't played Record Keeper. Show it to them so you can get some weird looks. Really, you're giving them a story to tell. You know, don't think of it as you're weirding them out. Think of it as you're giving them a story to tell for the rest of their lives. You know, just this random guy walked up to me, or random girl, this random person walked up to me and told me this thing about this, you know, kid who was playing Final Fantasy Record Keeper. You know, give him a story to tell. You know, do it, really. Share this video around. You know, tell me who you think should be added in Final Fantasy Record Keeper. You know, I think I've already covered a great deal of who you might say, but, you know, just tell me if my suggestions are good. And, probably more importantly, tell me if my music choice is good. Tell me if I ever do this again in the future, what I should play. If I should play Final Fantasy music, or keep doing this. Because I honestly don't know everyone else's thoughts on, you know, death and black metal. But, you know, I'm gonna just throw this out there. You know, if you don't like death metal because you think it's all satanic and, you know, depressing and stuff, it's really not. If you look at the lyrics, alright, well, I can't say that for all of it. Some of it is out there, but I don't listen to that. A great deal of the black metal I listen to is poetic. So it's not all, you know, it's not all bad, really. I promise you, it's not as bad as you're thinking. But anyway, enough of that. That's not Final Fantasy related. That's just heart to heart. That's pretty much it for this video. That was pretty much everybody's ideas that I had. So, yeah, once again, just in case you can't hear properly, comment your suggestions, tell me my choice on music, you know. Just provide your input. I want your input. And most importantly, share this around, you know. Gotta get the word out. See if Dina will catch wind of this and then finally listen to us. And maybe they'll finally improve our, you know, drop rates of 5 stars. Because 2 things were recently implemented in JP I did not mention. They recently implemented an Ultimate Plus Plus dungeon in the same dungeon as the Overflow Soul Break. So, plus plus. If the Ultimate Plus is not hard enough already. They also just implemented in JP a guaranteed 5-star per 11 draw. Let me reiterate that again, just in case you didn't hear it the first time, or in case you want to make sure you heard me right. There, in JP, they get a guaranteed 5-star per 11 draw. This was implemented, I think last week, so it's not like they've had this forever. This is fairly new. So, my prediction is that we're going to get, we're going to get this at approximately the same events they did. So we're not going to get this till Overflow Soul Break, which is going to be, in October or November. So it's a long way away. So if you want to save your Mithril for your guaranteed 5 stars later, by all means do that. But I'm going to conserve my Mithril for special events. And I've already wasted enough on Final Fantasy VIII, so you can bet I'm going to do that, you know. Also, one more thing. Dungeon update. This Saturday, I believe. So the daily dungeons are going to reset. We're going to get more realm dungeons. Maybe we'll get some more character revisions, all that stuff. So, yeah, that's it for this video. Share it. Do anything you want with it, really. It's your choice. And as usual... wait. Let me do that again. I tried to snap. As usual, until next time, Record Keepers.